My name's Ava, and I'm a kindergartner in Jasper Elementary School, and this is a day of my life.
Ava is a kindergartner in Miss Nordhoff's class. Each morning, Miss Nordhoff greets students in the hall. Then they head into the classroom. Ava goes to her seat and gets her folder out of her backpack and gets out her homework sheet. Then she turns it in. After she turns in her homework sheet, she puts her folder into the pocket on the back of her chair and takes a seat. Ava talks with her classmate while she waits for her name to be called. Miss Nordhoff calls up each student so they can make their choice of lunch for the day. After making her lunch choice, Ava puts her backpack and coat in her locker. After all students are back at their seats, the class counts in unison from number 1 to 50. After counting, they line up to use the restroom. Before heading down, they all say the class mission statement. After using the restroom, they head back and sit on the rug. They talk about and write the date, what day of the week it is, how many days they have been in school, count how many students are present that day, talk about the weather, and then they count to the number 50 again. Instead of going from number 1 to 50, Ms. Nordhoff challenges the class by having them start at numbers like 11 and 30. Before heading back to their seats, Ms. Nordhoff shares about the math lesson they will be completing that day. She shares that the lesson will be on capacity. At their seats, Ms. Nordhoff sets out 4 different size cups. She has the students talk at their tables about which cup they think will hold the most capacity. Ava and the student at her table discuss and then share with the class. To begin the lesson, students are given a sheet of paper in which they write their names and the date. Ms. Nordhoff uses a measuring cup to fill up the cups she has set out. After each pour, students write down the capacity each cup held. After writing this down, the students draw an outline on the paper to demonstrate the capacity each cup held. Then they color in the outline. After they finish, they put the paper in their folder to take home. After the capacity lesson, they review shapes. Ms. Nordhoff goes over a few shapes and then the class works together with their partner. Using shape blocks, they put together pictures. After a few minutes of partner work, they clean up. Next, they do some morning movement. This allows the students to get up and move while also counting. The video they watched and sang along with counted from the number 1 to 100. Then it was time for first recess out at the tot lot. After recess, a short story was passed out to each student. They were instructed to fold it like a book and put their name and date on the paper. The class read the short story aloud with Miss Nordhoff. After reading, they put the story in their folders. Then they got out their reading-writing companions and read Tom on Top together as a class, which was a story about firefighters. After reading, the class practiced their first quarter and second quarter sight words. During the restroom break, Ava watered the plants. Ms. Nordhoff assigns job to students in the class, and Ava's job is currently the gardener. After the students used the restroom, they worked on a phonics worksheet. While working on the phonics worksheet, they practiced sounding out words. A technique Ms. Nordhoff uses is identifying the beginning, middle, and end. Students put out their arm and chop down their arm, making the sounds of the word. The class works on a Saxon phonics worksheet. They work with the letter I, which is the letter of the week. Then in open spaces on the sheet, Ms. Nordhoff gives letter sounds, and as a class they identify the letter and write the uppercase and lowercase form of the letter. Then they identify the uppercase I among other letters. Then they continue to sound out more words. After that, they put the worksheets in their folders. Then students are broken into small groups. Using sight words, they do say it, pop it, make it, write it. For this activity, students choose a sight word, then they say the word. Using a pop-it fidget, they spell the word out while popping the fidget. Using letter cards, they then make the word. Then, on the green boards, they write the word. They do this activity with multiple sight words until Ms. Nordhoff indicates it is time to clean up. After that, they line up for lunch. After lunch, they go to recess, and then all kindergarten students go to different specials. After specials, Ava heads back into the classroom and puts a paper from her specials in her folder. She also gets out her writing notebook. First, Ava writes down the date and waits for Ms. Nordhoff's instructions. Today, the class watched a video and created an illustration of a penguin. They labeled the object they drew as well as the colors they will use and then colored the illustration. The next day, they will write about the illustration and the labels they created. Ava went and showed Miss Nordhoff her work before moving on to the next activity. For the next activity, Ava first completed a worksheet matching capital and lowercase letters. Then she went and got her second worksheet, which focused on the sight words and letter of the week. After completing the worksheets, Ava cut out and decorated a Christmas tree. These trees will be put up on Miss Nordhoff's bulletin board. After cutting and decorating her Christmas tree, Ava got out her tablet and did a drawing activity. While students worked on their tablets, Miss Nordhoff called students to her desk to complete quarterly testing on counting. The quarterly test for kindergarten must be done one-on-one for all students. After counting with Miss Nordhoff, Ava went back to her tablet to finish up some drawing. Before last recess, the students packed up their backpacks and put them on the back of their chairs. Then it was time for recess. After recess, students returned to the classroom and worked on their tablets while Miss Nordhoff continued to work with the class individually on their quarterly testing for numbers. And after that, it was time to go. And that's the day in the life of Ava, a kindergartner at Jasper Elementary School.